Hello friends. So after finishing the concept of taxonomy, today we are going to see about the concept of species. Now let us first define the species, and then we are moving ahead of what kind of species concepts are generally used. Now if I talk about the species, the species word is actually Latin word which is meaning a different or a kind which is in terms of their appearance, right? So it is a kind or appearance. So one type of organism is different or specific with their appearance. This is the meaning of a species. Traditionally, morphological differences have been used to distinguish a species. Now, what is morphological difference? The differences which are external or related to the structure of a particular organism, they are termed as the external or morphological characters. So we are considering those morphological characters here to distinguish a particular species. Now today, differences in the body function or biochemistry or behavior or genetic makeup are used to differentiate the species. Now these are the categories, factors by which we are differentiating between various species. There are so many different species concepts have been introduced till now. So we are going to see various kind of species concepts now. So please take the screenshot of the slide first. Okay. The first concept ever was given in 1942 by Ernst Mayr, and that is termed as the biological species concept. And this is the concept which is most popular, right? And in the textbook as well, it is defined the similar way with the biological species concept. So, Ernst Mayr is responsible, or it has the role of giving the species concept first time. Now, according to him, a species is a population or a group of population whose member have the potential to interbreed. This is the most important characteristic feature what is to be considered for individual to place in a group of population called species. So they can interbreed with each other in nature to produce variable fertile offspring. So to produce viable fertile offspring, they interbreed, and they can be able to do that. If they can be able to do that, then and then only they are considered to a same species, a member of a same species. but cannot produce viable fertile offspring with the member of other species. So they are different with the other species with the process or with the factor which is affecting by reproduction. That's what you are supposed to remember. So they are reproductively differentiated. This is the proper word to remember. Okay. Second point, biological concept of the species is largest set of the population in which the genetic exchange is possible. Now, genetic exchange is what? When two of the organism is reproducing with each other, then they definitely are exchanging the genes between them. We know that according to the cell cycle, that is cell division, there are two types of cell division. One is mitosis and the other is meiosis. Now, in meiosis, it is the process of production of gametes. So it is gametogenesis. Which is responsible for sexual mode of reproduction. Right? So, during the meiosis process, there is a particular set of exchange of genetic material is happening, and the process is termed as crossing over. Many of you may have knowledge of these or may not be having. Anyway, you are going to see the entire process of mitosis and meiosis in later on chapters, that is in chapter number 10 of your 11th syllabus. Ready? So, genetic exchange is possible and genetically isolated from other population. Why genetically isolated from other population? Because they are not doing reproduction with the other species. And why they can exchange the genetic material? Because they are responsible for sexual mode of reproduction within their member of the same group. So that's the first concept known as biological species concept. There are other concepts are also given by various other member of the scientist communities. So first, biological concept of the species, and that's what you are supposed to take the screenshot first. Fine. The second concept, which is in front of you, is termed as ecological species concept. Now, as far as ecological species concept is concerned, the name ecology plays an important term or important role defining in this concept. So, it defines a species in terms of their ecological niche or niche. right? The set of environmental resources that species uses, it's known as their ecological niche, and its role in biological community. So, you are considering the ecological niche of a particular species or organisms, and according to that, when you are defining or considering the species, then it is known to be ecological species concept. For an example, now you better understand, a species that is parasite is defined in the part by its adaptation to a specific organism. So, as we know that any of the parasite is depending on the other species or other member of the species, maybe internally, maybe externally. If they are found parasiting within the body, then it is called internal parasite, or when they are living outside or on the wall of the body, that is on the skin, on the hair, etc., it is called external parasite, right? So that's the part which is enough to define their characteristic feature, particularly based on where they are living, right? Endoparasite or exoparasite, there is internal parasite or external parasite. So, their ecological niche is important to define the term of the species, ready? And so, that is the best example to be given. So, this is the second concept of ecological species concept, fine. So, please take a screenshot. Now, third is morphological species concept. Again, the name plays the important role, as morphology, which is a term used for external features. So, in this concept, if you see the first point, it is the most oldest and still most practical method, right? Because we always judge any of the species by their external character only, whether it is a species of bird, whether it is a species of fish, whether it is a species of reptile, etc. So, most oldest, most practical, and defined as a species by their unique set of structural feature. For example, if they have a scales on the body, definitely they are going to be reptiles. If they have feathers on their body, definitely they are going to be birds. So, they based on their morphological features, more than 1.8 million species, as we know, have been identified by scientists using this concept only, and it is having a disadvantage to rely on subjective criteria as well. So, only these criteria is not enough of defining the species. So, you are supposed to be take care about the other concepts as well, other subjective area as well, ready? Fine. So, that is the morphological species concept. Please take the screenshot. And the last one is phylogenetical species concept, which is most advanced So, it is a recent proposal which is based on genealogical, that is why, based on genes, that is why phylogenetic species concept. Now, if I want to define it, right? So, their species as a set of organisms with unique genetical history on one tip of the branching tree of life. So, if you draw a particular branching tree, for example, here is a particular parental species, then they have two more offspring species, these have two more, these have two more, these have three, these have two, these have three. So, this is called phylogenetic tree. So, each of the branch is having a specific type of genetic history, and based on the character of genetical history and variation, when you define a species, then it is phylogenetical species concept. So, it is relies on the data from sequences of nucleic acids. Ready? Now, why it is a recent concept? Because it is depending on sequence of nucleic acids. As we know that in 20th century, the advanced technology makes or enables us going deep into the research is as far as not only morphological character is concerned, but biochemical characters are concerned. We can think so deep, we can observe very fine or very micro behavior which is done by various types of molecule within the body, within the cell, even within the nucleus, that is by nucleic acid. So, we can observe the behavior of chromosomes, genes within the cell and the nucleus with the help of this advancement of the technology. So, sequences of nucleic acid we can measure, we can observe, and we can even have the knowledge about their behavior, that how, what are they doing or how they are functioning, and what is a resultant feature of their behavior. So, it relies on the data from the sequence of nucleic acid. For example, in general, RNA sequencing tool is used. You are supposed to remember these things. Definitely it is first time encountered, maybe first time encountered by you. So, maybe some words are found to be very abnormal and new to your mind. So, sequencing of nucleic acid based recently on, mostly on RNA sequencing. So, 16S RNA or 18S RNA genes are identified and learn their behavior. So, that knowledge is used and applied here for phylogenetical species concept. Now, RNA are responsible for proteins, formation of proteins. So, proteins also are used to define a species by their unique genetical marker. Now, what is meaning of genetical marker? Nucleic acid sequence which is used to identify a particular process, particular cell, particular mechanism or particular organism, then it is called a marker. It is used to for the identification. That is why it is unique genetical marker. Each species has its utility depending on their situation, that is their surrounding, their niche, their environment, their enemies, etc. So, species are developing their internal metabolic activity according to its own environment, maybe external environment and maybe internal environment. So, depending on their own situations, they have a unique genetical sequencing. Ready? So, each species has its utility, that is depending on the situation and the types of question that we are asking, that what kind of special adaptation they have, what kind of niche they are living in, what kind of the other competitors they are facing, etc. Now, commonly applied for bacteria or microbes. Now, why phylogenical species concept is into the existence? Because in microbe we cannot go through morphological characterization as it is microscopic. That is why we are using phylogenetic species concept. Fine. So, it is most probably or most commonly used in defining or identifying the microorganisms that are bacteria or other microorganism. So, this was the last type of species defining concept. So, please take the screenshot of phylogenetic species concept as well. Now, few common characters which are shared by the species. Species are based on interfertility, as we know, but not physical similarity. If one person and the other person can reproduce with each other, then they can be considered as a similar species. Ready? That is, if you see the example which is given below, eastern and western meadowlarks, that is these small finch like organism, chakli jevu. Ready? So, it is called meadowlark. So, this is eastern and this is western meadowlark. They are exactly similar to each other with the shape, with the coloration, but they have differences in song. One have different song and the other have different song. That is why they are not being attracted by each other specifically for interbreeding. So, they are having gap in interbreed, they do not interbreed. So, they are two species, not one. In contrast, human, though they are very different from each other, they have capacity to interbreed. So, it is a same species or it considered as same. So, interbreeding or interfertility is considered as to be the most important defining characteristic feature for speciation. That is what you are supposed to remember. Fine. Please take the screenshot. Now, types of species. Ready? So, when I am talking about types of species, basically 3 types of species we can observe. First type is allopatric species. Now, what is meaning of allopatric? When a species is belonging to different geographical area or separated by different geographical barrier. If you see the diagram here, in the first the upper diagram, you can see a single region, right? But due to the course of time, there may be some abnormality, for example, the earthquake or something like that, which has done a very larger crater between them, and this region is converted into two separate regions. So, these are the same species previously, but right now they are not the same because they are distributed into two different regions. Ready? So, those kind of species which are similar to their appearance, characters, everything, but they are found to be with different geographical area, it is called allopatric. Number 2, sympatric. Definitely two similar kind of species, species number 1 and species number 2, which are similar to each other, right, but not similar. So, two or more species inhabiting the same overlapping geographical area. Ready? First, in it was single area and single species. By course of time, if you see, one more species inhabited the same area. So, there they have two species within the area, or more than two species can be possible within that particular area. So, this kind of arrangement of inhabited species in the same area is called sim matlab similar, sharing the similar character or place. So, sympatric species. Now, third, sibling species. Now, in the third diagram, if you see Anopheles mosquito, there are two species, Anopheles atroparvus and Anopheles maculipennis. These are two different species, right? So, their origin is same. There may be forefathers, their ancestry is common, in short. So, they are morphological very similar, but they are reproducively isolated. So, this kind of species are termed to be sibling species. So, in general, a particular term species is very unique, very specialized, and defining a group of organism with a specific type of external, internal, morphological, genetic characteristic feature and specific character which is defining to the species is they must interbreed with their own member of the group, and they could not be able to interbreed with the other group members of the other species. So, that is where I am concluding today's lecture of this speciation. Into next lecture, we are continuing with taxonomical characters. So, till then I wish you a better luck. Have a nice time. See you. Take care.